In October 2019, a spark ignited the dry brush of Southern California. Driven by shifting winds, the tick fire roared across the hillsides, forcing 40,000 residents to flee their homes with only minutes to spare. Barely a month later, an active shooter event at Saugus High School left 2 students dead and 3 injured. The community was thrust into a heavy mourning, surrounded by law enforcement perimeters and grief counselors. Then the pandemic hit. Businesses closed, streets emptied, and a rigid lockdown isolated a population that was already reeling from back-to-back traumas. Navigating these cascading disasters fell to local government, specifically the seat of the mayor in Santa Clarita. But years before Bill Miranda sat in that seat, he occupied a very different one. A massive stroke had left him completely unresponsive, drifting in an intensive care unit, tethered to life by blinking monitors and a ventilator. This was the starting line. While his city began gasping for a way through the smoke and the grief, Bill Miranda was just learning how to breathe on his own again. Before the stroke, Bill was a highly self-reliant corporate consultant. He traveled constantly, built a multi-million-dollar company, and prided himself on making things happen. The medical emergency erased that stability overnight, leaving his business and finances in freefall. Bills piled up while he struggled to perform the simplest tasks, like buttoning a shirt. Survival meant accepting help. When a retired friend offered to manage his high-stakes consulting projects entirely for free, Bill had to swallow his pride and say yes. His physical recovery required the same humility. He started by walking slowly down his street. Each day, his stride grew a fraction steadier. These deliberate daily walks became a quiet ritual of gratitude. The corporate consulting calls eventually stopped. In their place, Bill began showing up at local nonprofits for the homeless and veterans, serving meals, listening to stories, and eventually joining 3 separate boards of directors. Santa Clarita is a massive, rapidly expanding suburban hub of over 200,000 people. This map shows the demographic layout of the city. While 35% of the population was Latino, a group of university students pointed out a stark reality to Bill. That massive portion of the community had virtually no representation in local business organizations. Bill co-founded a new Latino Chamber of Commerce with a different approach. Instead of stiff corporate mixers, they focused on social connection, family, and cultural authenticity, blending business with genuine community ties. The organization quickly swelled to 75 members. They hosted large street festivals and galas, eventually drawing the attention of federal representatives who sought them out to understand the community's needs. Rather than remaining permanently separate, Bill and his board negotiated a merger with the city's main chamber of commerce. They secured a permanent voice in the broader economic decisions of the region. The merger ensured that cultural representation became a fundamental part of the city's economic foundation. In 2014, a Latino candidate finally won a seat on the Santa Clarita City Council, but a year later, he was elected to the state assembly, leaving a sudden vacancy and threatening to erase the representation the community had just secured. The city opted to appoint a replacement. With hours left before the deadline, the preferred candidate backed out. Bill scrambled to apply himself, facing 3 immediate rejections from local officials before finally securing the required reference letters. He rushed to City Hall with less than 2 hours to spare. When the official list was published the next morning, Bill was the 51st and final name on the roster of applicants. On the night of the decision, all 51 candidates gave 3-minute pitches to a packed chamber. The initial council vote split 2-1, leaving the final decision to the mayor. He cast the tie-breaking vote for Bill, citing his deep roots in community service. While many of the other 50 applicants relied on polished scripts and media campaigns, Bill spoke without notes. He relied on the same surrendered attitude that had carried him through his recovery. That steady presence was tested almost immediately. When the tick fire blanketed the valley in thick smoke, the city was gripped by panic. Residents needed leaders who could remain calm under the pressure of an unfolding emergency. Soon after, national social unrest arrived in Santa Clarita. Hundreds marched near the sheriff's station, and Bill found himself mediating deep community pain, listening to calls for justice while working to maintain peace. During the economic collapse of the pandemic, Bill drew directly on his memory of waking up helpless in the ICU. He understood exactly what it felt like to face a sudden division of life into a before and an after, allowing him to comfort residents with genuine empathy. In December 2020, Bill was sworn in as Santa Clarita's first Latino mayor. He had walked into City Hall years earlier as a last-minute applicant, and now he was leading a city that was finally beginning to rebuild. Bill Miranda's journey proves that the most resilient leaders are those who have been through the breaking and have emerged with the understanding that life is a gift to be given away.